Hello and welcome to the Eating Disorder Therapist podcast. I'm Harriet Frew, here to support you in overcoming disordered eating and finding peace with food. So today I'm going to talk about unexpected insights from the eating disorder therapy room. Okay, so let's dive in. So first of all, number one, eating disorders don't have a look. Now, when I'm speaking to new people about my job as an eating disorder therapist, the first response that people will usually give when they hear what I do is usually one of shock, and then also an expression of deep concern, because most people will think about the stereotype of the thin, white, adolescent, emaciated female. So my reciprocation usually involves raising awareness of eating disorders outside of this stereotype, because with 85% of sufferers not being underweight, eating disorders certainly don't have a look. And in fact, many people seem to be perfectly healthy on the outside. But your average person in Western culture probably doesn't appreciate this. And why would they? Because diet and wellness culture normalizes disordered eating practices and the idealization of thin. So things like extreme restriction, eliminating whole food groups, or delaying eating for hours when you're starving hungry are all daily practices for many. And consequently, many people have spent a lifetime in a difficult relationship with food, and this has become their normal. So the limited perception of the thin, emaciated stereotype often as well prevents people accessing the help they need. They just consider, I'm not sick enough. And I know as well that limited NHS resources amplify this problem, and the help isn't always readily available. I think that can be so tough when you have really psyched yourself up to finally go and get some help, and then you're told you're not sick enough. Now, thankfully, this is changing with initiatives such as Freed, the early intervention program for eating disorders that the NHS runs, but there is still some way to go. So eating disorders come in all shapes and sizes. They do not discriminate and impact individuals of all genders, races, ages and cultures. So currently on my caseload, I have clients ranging from 15 years to 67 years in age. Now, I do work mainly with adults, so I just want to be clear that there's many people that are younger that will be suffering, but in terms of the people I tend to work with, they tend to be adults or kind of mid-teens to adults. 25% are male identifying. Now, I know for men, often accessing eating disorder support feels very challenging. There's a lot of stigma, a lot of stereotyping. They often feel that the way eating disorders are presented and talked about are not the way that information is presented is not very relatable to them. So there's a lot of men that are struggling alone, or men that don't even realise that they are struggling because perhaps they're in the fitness industry as well, and eating disorder behaviours are very normalised in fitness. So with my clients, 70% have a BMI over 20. So most people are normal weight or overweight. And again, I know that BMI has limitations, but I'm just using it here to give you a bit of an insight. 25% as well from ethnic minority groups, 10% have a disability, and I would say only 20% look visibly thin. So many of my clients might not fit an eating disorder diagnosis. However, they're also struggling with many of the following behaviours. So things like restrictive eating, feeling obsessed with food, feeling addicted to weight loss or the pursuit of it, losing control around food through binge eating or overeating, using purging behaviours such as self-induced vomiting, taking laxatives or slimming pills, over-exercising. So they clearly have disordered eating, or maybe on the borderline of a diagnosis of an eating disorder, but their eating brings them a lot of distress. So if you are struggling and you're listening with any of these behaviours and they're causing you emotional turmoil, you deserve to seek help. Remember, eating disorders do not have a look. Okay, you do not need to be thin and emaciated to seek help. Okay, number two, the outer shell of perfection. So many people with eating disorders attempt to present a perfect coping front to the world. Now, the glossy outer shell of perfection is a protective survival strategy to avoid rejection and or abandonment. It is the mask to hide and offers defense against potential criticism or judgment. There is always more beneath the surface, because no human is perfect. Everyone has their inner struggles, their imperfections, their shameful habits and dark soul moments. So examples of how this might present itself with the outer perfection. So the client who is objectively beautiful and successful, but inside they feel lonely and isolated with few true connections. They tend to attract emotionally avoidant or abusive romantic partners, and they find it challenging to make friends as they constantly question themselves, make comparisons, and lack trust in relationships. The client who is wellness lean, with an Instagram or TikTok glossy, inspirational social media page, but is intensely self-critical and struggles with bulimia behind closed doors. Another one, the client who strives to be the perfect mother and is all things to her children, but she struggles to include herself in the self-care equation though. She drinks several glasses of wine and binge eats through the evenings to fill the inner void and overwhelm. So if you recognise yourself here, be kind and self-compassionate. You deserve to be seen as your full self, the light and the dark, and healing offers a route towards this acceptance and being known, because this is what we all really want deep down. And when we're pursuing weight loss, acceptance and validation from others, really what we want so much is to be fully known, to be understood, to be seen. Okay. Number 3, weight and shape. So an eating disorder appears to be all about weight and shape, and clients may genuinely be focusing on these topics incessantly, with thoughts reverberating around food from dawn till dusk. But this is the symptom coping strategy, albeit unconscious. It's often a protection and safety blanket, preventing connection with inner beliefs, emotions, and difficult thoughts. So underneath an eating disorder, someone might feel not good enough, unworthy, unlikable, too much, emotionally chaotic, a bad person. So the eating disorder effectively numbs and distracts from the deeper pain, offers glimmers of hope, achievement, and validation when life feels too much. And in eating disorder recovery, healing focuses not only on symptoms, but gently accessing the deeper issues too. And it's often extremely painful, at least in the shorter term in recovery, when long buried feelings rise to the surface and things can feel worse before they feel better. So suppressed emotions rise with intensity often to begin with. For example, maybe outbursts of anger and frustration erupting. Fears about change and an uncertain future dominate. Torrents of grief through waves of upset and sorrow. But getting in touch with reality, these emotions that have been buried, and in touch with the authentic self is paramount for healing. Coming back to the self allows the growth of new shoots of purpose, connection, and contentment. And it takes time, so be kind and patient with yourself. Number 4, the hidden self. There is a hidden life beneath an eating disorder which few have access to. This leaves a sufferer in a lonely ball of shame, isolated and desolate. And the secret parts might include covert exercising, so things like pacing around the house when no one's at home, or joining 2 different gyms to avoid others' concerns around over-exercising. Maybe spending a fortune on food to either purge or chew and spit later. The pressure then to dispose of the evidence or to find safe places to engage in disordered eating behaviours. Sufferers become like Sherlock Holmes in their efficiency in masking and hiding their actions. Pretending to eat in front of others when in fact food is thrown away or hidden. Eating other people's food during a binge without planning or thinking about it. Taking huge quantities of laxatives and purchasing them from different shops to minimise concern. Lying about food eaten, exercise done, or falsifying weight. Now, people with eating disorders are generally very honest people, but values are thrown out of the window when the eating disorder runs rampant. Do not judge yourself for the deception that the eating disorder brings. It is a coping strategy and you deserve self-compassion. But recognising the discrepancy between your deepest values and your current truth can be a catalyst for change. And number 5, constant comparisons. If you have an eating disorder, you will look externally and constantly compare yourself with others. You rarely accept and self-validate as you don't feel worthy of this. You are seeking continual evidence of your body's wrongness and not being good enough. You will seek this confirmation through comparisons with friends, social media, and in your day-to-day environment. And you will feel glimmers of superiority and accomplishment when you restrict and control food in ways that others cannot. And you will feel destructive self-loathing and self-chastisement when you slip up or fail to meet your standards. So healing from an eating disorder involves putting the blinkers on to comparisons and coming back to you. You are worthy as you are. No one has your unique qualities and attributes. Some final thoughts. It's important to show deep compassion to anyone struggling with an eating disorder, as any deception or miscommunication is about survival and self-protection. An eating disorder is unconscious coping to feel safe and distract from deeper pain. And if you're struggling with an eating disorder, know that you're not alone. Shame grows in silence and aloneness, while showing openness and vulnerability in trusted places can destroy shame and offer an opportunity for acceptance and being known. Connection through healthy relationships can be one of the cornerstones for healing, and one of the places for this can be therapy. So do you relate to any of these themes? I would love to hear your experiences if you're happy to share. Thank you so much. If you're not following me already on Instagram, do seek me out, the Eating Disorder Therapist _. And for further support with your relationship with food, do go to the eatingdisordertherapist.co.uk. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'll be so grateful if you'd follow, rate and review, as it helps it reach so many more listeners. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to sharing another podcast episode with you very soon.